So here's our scene so far. We were doing pretty good with our 3-point lighting, and where we last left off, we wanted to get rid of some of the darkness in the background. So if I look through the camera, you see, this is where we were, and this gradient back here is what we want to fix. Now, all the lights we've looked at so far that we've been working with have been point lights. What we're going to do now is we're going to add in an area light. So an area light, very similar to a point light in as much as that I can make it bigger and smaller, and all the, the brightness and colors, I can change that, but it's going to be square, and that's going to give us a little bit different look. And the squareness of this we can alter, so it's kind of a really nice light for getting a lot of coverage, which again, you could do this with a point light, but you could also, by changing this dimension of it that you'll see in a second here, can give you different types of effects. So I'm going to add in the area light, but first I want to remind you, if you happen to be looking through the camera, make sure you don't have camera to view selected before you move out of here. Now when I add in the light, remember it's always going to go to your 3D cursor down here, and if your scene is large, or if you're zoomed out quite a bit, you might not know where it went to, so keep that in mind. So if I hit this, it's kind of what I was talking about. So it's there, but it's right there, you see? So if you trust that it is selected, remember how we've been kind of playing this game before. You know up here in the outliner it is selected. It was the last thing I just made, so it must be selected. So I can hit G and then Z and then just bring it up to where you can see it, okay? We'll just bring this up a little bit. Then I want to take a look at the brightness, because as you can see, probably it didn't really affect terribly too much. If you watched it maybe as it was right above the cube, you see that right there? Then you can kind of see it, okay? So I'll bring it up here, and then I'm going to turn the power up. It's currently at 10 watts, so rather than just go 10, 11, 12, try going to something like maybe 3000 and see what happens. So wow, yeah, now we've got a lot of light. You might like that though. So if we were to look through the camera, maybe that's a good look. We're actually going to fix this with our scene light, the world light that we turned off before. Okay, so don't worry about this terribly too much right now. Now what I want to do is, before I can move this back over there, well, I can, but I would like to kind of align this with our plane that we originally created down here. You know what? Here, hold on. Let's turn this off. This is making things complicated. So here's my plane right here. If I want to move this around, I can hit G and just move it wherever I want. Okay, and looking straight down on it from the top view, I'm not accidentally going around any other kind of plane. It is moving the way it should. However, if I want again to move it just on the y-axis, I'll hit that, and it moves up like this. Now if I hit Y again, because of the orientation that it's in, the default orientation, they both are going to move in the same type of direction. So if my intent was to have it move in this way, matching this plane right here, well, maybe I want to match that shape. So I'm going to scale it up first, just to make things a little bit easier to see. Remember, you can go through the screen, and that's going to be probably good about there, good enough. And now I can hit R to rotate, and I'm still going to hit Z just in case, right? So I'm rotating around the Z axis, and now I can roughly, line it up. If I want, I can hold down Shift to make it move slowly. We've seen that trick before. And then if I'm really picky, then I could scale it up. I can get bigger here, and then I'll move this over. I'll grab it. Now I can go Y, Y, move it forward. And you can see I'm a little bit crooked there. Do I care? Not in this case, but if I wanted to care, if I needed to care, I could hit R, Z, move it around a little bit, get it kind of close, hold down Shift, and now I can try to do my best to line it up, okay? So just some stuff there. Now I want to bring this back down, and I'm going to move it over about like this. And let's go back to render. So you can see the light is shining down, and if I were to look through the camera, it is maybe okay. We're probably still going to see a little bit of darkness right there, but it's better. And maybe this is a look that you want, this bright in here and a little bit of shadow. Maybe you like that, okay. If you want, you can grab this YY and you can move it, you see, while we're here in the camera, and try to help get it right where you need it to be. And that, maybe looks pretty good right there, okay. So that could be good. That could be good. But I can tell you, this right here, it's still a little bit dark over here because of the shape of this. So I can jump back up here to top view. And what I can do now is I can scale this out. If, by the way, if you want, you can just grab a corner there and that works fine. In this particular case, I'm going to hit S and then I'm going to hit X, and that's our X-axis. Hit it again, and then I can draw this out and look at the way the light reacts now. This is great because we can cover this whole field right here with the one light, and I could make it bigger and cover everything if I wanted to. But later in a minute, like I said, we can turn back on a little bit of world light, and that'll solve that problem. The other thing you could do with this, if you wanted to, just as a little bit of an aside, is I could scale this down on the Y and make it really skinny, and then maybe I could duplicate the thing, and I could make another light over here somewhere just to kind of try to give you this effect here. I've got one band of light, another band of light separated by a little bit of shadow, and maybe I'm trying to create something similar to maybe some fluorescent light bulbs, the long fluorescent lights, and I want to have that kind of an effect. So that's kind of nice. So I will pick this again, and I will scale this back up on the Y a bit like that, just to get that background, okay? And then we can look through the camera, and that's it. You see? Now, you can, of course, bring this up and down as you see fit. You can come over here, you can change the power. We haven't talked about color, but it's pretty obvious. It's right there. Get it to the way you like it. Now, second part of this, if this is not already too long, I want to show you a quick little trick. Well, maybe not so quick, but you know, we can fast forward it. If I wanted to, just like we did with the floor, remember how the floor affected the look of this? I can add to some degree a ceiling on this, and that makes things pretty interesting as well. I can use the ceiling to my benefit because right now you're still seeing these dark edges here. We're not quite yet entirely going to be able to get rid of all those. It has a lot to do. I mean, if we wanted to build an entire box around this and light everything, we could get that. The other thing we're going to do, though, is we're actually going to change the material on this just a little bit, just to soften it up. It is metal, and we could use it, and we could say, hey, guys, it's metal, but if it doesn't look so good, even in real life, if it doesn't look so good, then you find a different model, right? So I'm going to, I'll put a plane above here, and I'll show you what this looks like. This might be good enough. If I really feel that I need to, I could scale it on the X and bring it out like this. Then I could bring this up on the Z. And where's our little QB down there? Let's get this right on the top of it, okay? Now let's go into the camera. There's going to be a couple issues here. Like, for example, you see these lights shining on the surface right here? We might need to bring the lights down or bring the ceiling up, but this is just a quick little thing here. Oh, and our area light as well. So can you tell the difference? Can you see just by having that ceiling on there, we have solved some of these dark edges. And if you want to go around, like I said, we can put walls behind us. So so you're not reflecting so much darkness, right? You're still gonna have to light it. So that's the thing. Or like I said, we could soften this up. We'll do that in a moment. Now I've got the plane selected. While I'm in the camera, I could hit GZ and I could bring this down. You know, that's too low. And you can kind of give it a pause and see what it looks like, and you could bring it up and see what that looks like. Okay, so that's the ceiling. Now, the other thing I'd like to show is just a little trick and just a reason to go back to some of the stuff that we've played with before. Let's go ahead and go back to solid mode. And I can rotate this around, and maybe eventually I'll pull these back down. But right now, I just want to get to showing you the trick. So our area light is up here. Now I can't see the back again. It's going to be kind of dark because it's being clipped off by the edge of that plane. So I can go here, and we'll pick this plane. We'll G, Y, it, and oops, wrong one here. And we'll bring it back just until it's behind this area light here. And again, it looks like I maybe want to rotate this a tiny touch. Something like so. And then if I were to go into the camera view and take a look at it now, the light will be back there, okay? So that's pretty good. But the other thing I can do now it's kind of fun, is I'll go here and I'm going to go create some loop cuts on this. So we'll hit this. We're going to need a few of these. So we're going to have to go here. We'll have to go into edit mode, Control R, remember. And now instead of doing the right click as we've been doing or scrolling to make multiples, I'm going to click one time and then I'm going to move it somewhere. And I'm going to try to guess right now about where that cube is. You can see the cursor right there, the 3D cursor. It's probably right about there. I'm guaranteed to screw this up to get the placement of this, but we'll get it eventually. So I'm going to scoot this over here, and I'm really just going to make kind of a tic-tac-toe board here. You're going to see why in just half a second. All right, now that I have this grid done, what I can do that might be interesting is I can go into face select mode and I can pick these and then delete them. The intent, I'm going to have to skinny a lot of stuff up here, is if I go into camera view, turn on render, the light will shine down through those holes, and I can use this blocking to create certain types of fills. So if you look up here, there's the holes. So I'm still in edit mode, by the way. Let's go into object mode. We'll pick that up there, and I'll hit GXX, and I'll move it over a little bit. And then I'm going to hit GYY, and I'll move it out a little bit until I can see those other holes, probably something about like that. And now I know that I'm roughly in place. And then I can come back here and go into edit mode, and I can start modifying this just a little bit. So remember our edge select mode. So I'm going to hit 2, and I'm going to pick this line here. I cannot hold down Alt select and get the entire loop right here. So I'm going to have to pick this and then hold down Control, and then I'll get all the ones through there. And then GG to edge slide. So this is the callback, right? So I'm going to bring this one over a tiny bit. I'm going to pick this one, hold down Control, get this one here, GG edge slide, move that one over. So I went ahead and kind of fixed this up. I moved it, as you can see, off to the side, and that's just going to be for clarity, so you can see what's going on here in a moment. And I have edge slid, so remember GG, so I've moved the lines around a little bit to make this shape here. It's kind of not really the look that it's going to end up being, right? And this has to do with where the light is placed. So I'm basically sculpting with shadows, you'll see here in a second. So right now you can't tell, there's nothing going on, because what's happening here is this light that's shining through these little holes is, well, first off, it's acting as kind of another key light here, and it's not quite as bright as our key light, so it's getting washed out. So what we want to do is go over here and turn off all our other lights, and then you can start to see that there's something interesting happening. And I really like this. I think this is kind of an extra cool effect. Now the reason that it doesn't quite look right, and notice that we're getting a band through the middle here, and we're not getting one across here, and that's actually the largest one. Right now it has to do with the size of the light, and it could have something to do with your brightness as well, as you can see. Okay, so I'll bring this back up to 4,000, and then the size, what you want to do is bring it down. So the default is 1 meter. Oh, I'm just going to slide it. So watch, I'll just drop it down slowly, a little bit more, and then as you bring it down, you see that? With it almost with it almost down to 0, you can very clearly see the holes in here. So now I'm going to bring this back up just to blow them out just a touch more. That's a little bit too much. And we can end up something like this. You see? So then if you want, you can go ahead and bring the light up a bit more, and maybe that will change the look. You can hit GZ, you could bring it down a bit, and maybe that will change it. Of course, you can blow the brightness out, and I can change the color if you like. So you can do this until you get the effect that you're after. Now, after you're there, matter of fact, I think I kind of want this I might want this to be a little bit bigger, and so then at this point in time, this is where you would go and start to change your openings up here. So again, even though this is the big one here, it has this skinny band, and it has a bit to do with where the light is coming down and through. If you make the light at more of an angle, then of course you're gonna have to change the light. So if you haven't figured this out already, this is to kind of simulate. We've got a little paned window here, and we have some light running through. And so then when I turn my other lights on, well, how about let's leave the key light off. You can see that it's there just a little bit. And then I can start going through here and saying, well, what about that fill light? Let's go with the rim light back here, and we'll knock this down to maybe 300. Then from here, you just keep dialing in your other lights until you get the effect that you like. So for example, if I do want to turn the key light back on, if it's a little bit too bright, then I'm probably going to want to knock this down substantially. Maybe down to something like that. I don't know. And we'll bring this up a little bit more, and then I think the maybe the fill light just a little bit. So I'll pick this one here. It's already at 300. That's pretty low. And then you just keep working on this until it's where you believe that you like it. So I know the video is getting a little bit long already, but I do have just a couple more quick things to show you. I want to go to the world lighting. So we talked about this in the beginning. We go here to world lighting, and we're currently set to 0. So it's turned off for all the reasons we talked about before. So I'd like to bring this up a little bit in effort to get rid of the dark, not exactly just the lighting, but the reflections of it. That's gonna be the second thing we do as well, the reflections. So I'll take the strength here, and you could bring it up a little bit, okay, but I wouldn't go much over 1 really. And it did something, but not a whole lot. And you could say, well, yeah, because we've got a ceiling up here, but the light is everywhere. And now here's kind of a clue. If you look off to the side here, you'll see that we see some gray. So our color is gray, so we want to bring this up to, how about just white? And now things start to brighten up quite a bit. So much so to where then maybe you might want to knock them back down. But we'll mess around with that a little bit more in a sec. So that's the first thing. So that gets us a little bit more light on here, a little bit less of those dark edges. The next part is we're going to go back to our shader. We're going to pick our cube, and we're going to go back to shading, and we'll turn on rendering so you can see what's going on. Let's get rid of the metallic a little bit. Let's bring that down, because I think for the next steps that we get into this, you're gonna have a bit better time if you knock it down a touch. You see in the reflections, it's a little bit smoother looking, and then bring the roughness up a little bit as well. And now our cube is, you could say that it's a little duller looking, and that could be accurate. It's a little bit fuzzier, so we're not seeing so many reflections. So something like this, you make the call what you want. So I'll move it around a little bit, and then I'm sure we'll change it later, okay? So that's really it. The next step here, last step, as usual, we'll go here and we will go ahead and render this thing out. So this is what I got now. I think things are coming along pretty well. The scene, you could say, is a little bit bland. With this new little bit of interest right here, you can maybe see the direction we're headed, with just the addition of a little bit of something to break up what we're looking at. Scratches, dust, fur, these kinds of things. They're going to help make the scene look a little bit nicer. Now, between the cut and now, I did change some of the brightness levels of the lights, so go around and do that. I moved the light up and down a little bit for this effect. I also moved the ceiling up and down just a touch to create a little bit more diffuse here. You bring it down, it gets a little bit sharper up, you play around with that, okay? So coming up next, we will look a little bit more at our nodes that we played at just for a little bit. We've got our principal BSDF right here, but we're gonna add a few more things to this and our background, and maybe 1 or 2 more videos, and we will get done with our little side cube project here and back to the regular Blender topics.